If I didn't know any better, I'd swear this Masters was molting. Here's a look at the brand new Mattel Master Universe Turtles of Grayskull, Rattlor, mutated snake man creature. The ooze left a trail leading straight to the recently mutated Rattlor, who can now control the minds of those infected with the venomized mutagen. Oh great, not only did he slither, but he's slimy now too. Before we get a closer look though at the Turtles of Grayskull, Rattlor, let's take the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. Now he's not actually using a lot of the same body as the original Rattlor, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Taking though first the tape measure, the figure is going to stand at 6 inches in height, or roughly about 15 centimeters tall. See, he is a lot taller. And maybe while he is using maybe the same torso, he's got brand new arms, he's got brand new legs, and yeah, he does have a brand new head sculpt. Bringing in also as well Skeletor. Let's see what else we can bring in here. He also shares, of course, this wave with Mechanic, so we'll bring him in. And speaking of mutations, here's what the figure looks like with a mutated He-Man. A mini-comic is the first thing we'll have a look at. To come included, though, with Rattlor, you get yourself Reptile Wars Part 1, Snake in the Shadows. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Because it happens to be the same mini-comic as the Mechanic we've already had a look at. Still don't have Donatello, still don't have Raphael. Now, to be all honest, I'm not sure if I even want to pick up the two turtles. I always think like the side characters, especially the evil ones, are always a lot cooler. Flipping though through the comic, one thing I do really like is that King Ghidorah's style of Shredder and the turtles down below. Clamp-Champ also is advertised down below. Clamp-Champ is part of the next wave. I might end up picking that figure up. We also have there inside, there's Mechanic, there's Raphael also advertised in there as well. Like, for what it is, like, the illustrations are done really well. I just don't know how interested I am to pick up the turtles. That could very well change, though. Let's move that off to the side. What isn't going to change at all is the idea I'm going to be tossing this immediately into the recycling bin. It's just to indicate, though, hey, he's got a longer neck. Yeah, he does. Just, though, that the gray parts are all parts that are swappable. To note, though, that not only can you remove his head, but you can also detach the part that's on the back of his body. Discarding that quickly, though, into the recycling. It doesn't have to be so quick. I can take my time, but I know you guys want to quickly look at the things that come included with the figure. One thing, though, got left off, unfortunately, the figure when I was kind of moving things around. He does have these kind of armor pieces that clip onto his forearms. These fall off frequently, though, so this had already fallen off of his arm. Basically, when you're putting it onto his arm, you want to just clamp it in place. But again, every time that I've moved this figure around, usually these just, again, pop off. They're made of a pretty nice-looking translucent pink plastic. The figure, if I don't drop this one now, the figure does have, get that back in place. Do I have it the right way? Maybe I don't have it the right way. Oh, now that's the right way. He does have all these neck extensions, which is pretty neat. Kind of following the same wave, really, as Mechanic, because, again, like Mechanic also had the same sort of feature. You take these two parts, and you don't have to, first of all, connect them together. I mean, they're as their own on their own. You can't move either of the neck pieces. So even though, while it kind of gives you the illusion that you can actually move these around, these are permanently molded shut. However, though, you can use one of these, you could use both of these, and if you bought really enough Rattlor, you could be the guy that advertises online, hey, look, my Rattlor's neck goes all the way to the ceiling. Take, though, the two neck pieces, and essentially what it is just going to take the ball joint and the ball socket, meet the two in the middle, plug them in place, and now you got like a little bit, I say little, you got a much longer neck piece that can then attach onto the bottom of his head. I guess maybe before we do that, though, let's pick up Rattlor and get a good close look at the figure. First of all, there's a lot of things I really like about the figure. The number one being is the fact that it looks like he is literally molting out of his original skin. The original skin, though, for Rattlor is basically just going, and then he's basically just vomiting. Oh, there goes the arm piece. He's basically just throwing up that mutated head that's underneath. And I think the head sculpt is really good on this guy. You don't have to necessarily either have Rattlor's head, the original head, on the back. You could leave it off, too, if you want to. I mean, it's just a case of also just popping off the head. You can pop this back in place if you really want to. I mean, I do kind of like, though, that he's got the little collar piece. Kind of reminds me of Serpentor. I think it very well might be the second reference to Serpentor I've made during this week. Do you remember what the other one was? But this is basically this, if I just put the figure down here for a second. It's a similar style I've had, although it's clearly a lot bigger, though, than the original Rattlor. And this is just, I wouldn't say like it's a super soft bit of plastic either. I mean, there's a little bit of density to that. But if you did want to have the piece completely left off, you can if you want to. I mean, this back torso piece, too, you could detach too. It's weird, though, that he has the holes on the back, almost to indicate that he should have like a shield or weapon that could attach. But they've done that a lot, though, with the Turtles of Grayskull line, that some figures don't have shields, but then they would also work with other shields from the figures that already have had them. If you did want to take the torso piece off, though, again, we'll just fully commit to this. You just literally slide this off. You have to work a lot harder to remove this than you did to take the gauntlet spikes off. These just keep continuing to pop off. But if you leave that off, you have basically the semblance of like the regular Rattlor body. The torso seems to be the same. If you're looking at also the tails are also the same. And hey, I've got a pair of maracas. You can also shake these as well. One of the things also that Rattlor had was the little shaking. I don't know what they would actually put inside of there, and it's probably just in the bottom of his tail, but yeah, he's got a little bit of a rattling feature. Let's go ahead, though, and take the neck. So first of all, we'll just take Rattlor's original head, put that back in place. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, though, let's take this piece, which, again, if you wanted to, you could use for another figure. Basically, you just fit this around, kind of have to fit this around his head first, and once it gets kind of around the collar piece, it's a lot of fighting, really, to get this honestly back in place, but fit that back where as best you could. Then take, whoops, not take Rattlor's head and drop it on the floor, but take Rattlor's head. Of course, there's a hole right there. Then take, you know what, let's take the neck piece. And the neck piece basically is, again, just going to attach onto that ball joint. Plug it in place. You want to make sure, of course, that this doesn't flop around on you. And then you take the really cool new head sculpt for Rattlor, and then you just attach that onto the end. Now, to look at this, some could very well say that's a little excessive. I may be one to agree with you. I mean, it is a little on the longer side. I think, honestly, if it comes time to put this guy on the shelf, which certainly will be right after this review, I might actually be reducing the length of the neck by 1. I think 1 neck piece, first of all, it makes him a lot more top-heavy, but I think that 1 neck piece is enough. I think when you get to more than that, it gets a little excessive, and people start to call you names behind the scenes. Please don't be calling me names behind the scenes. But it does give him, of course, some necessary articulation. He's got now a ball joint. Obviously, he would have already had the ball joint right there anyways, but he's got now a ball joint here at the second piece of the neck, and he's got the ball joint there on the top. By the way, though, speaking of things that move, Rattlor's mouth does also open and close, and again, making use of some glorious pink metallic, not even metallic, like translucent pink plastic. I like the way that they've also gone in there and colored in the eye, little slit there for the pupil. It's a really cool looking head sculpt. The only thing that really is a bit of a bother is that, just again, like these gauntlet blades fall off frequently, just when I think that I've got it in place. Again, I want to make sure I've got it rightly in the right place. I think the problem with it, too, is it has to be a little bit further up the forearm. If you move it down, for example, it just gets too narrow here and it ends up popping these off. I wish, honestly, there was a way that these could have just stayed better in place, but I think they've also done that, too, so you can mix and match the parts. Speaking of mixing and matching, by the way, though, once you do mix this around with another figure, what you'll see underneath, though, is that Rattlor actually uses translucent blue plastic, so it's not just the pink that he gets. He's got translucent blue in the arms, and he also has it down below in the legs. Some of it, though, does get covered over with paints, so we've got some burgundy colors of paint added in there as well. Nice bright pink on the feet on the bottom there as well. It's a lot of good stuff going into the figure. Like, you would look at this and think, first of all, like, if somebody was to pose this idea at Mattel, like, hey, let's start adding longer neck pieces, incorporating again some pink, some translucent blues to Rattlor that we've already had before, I may then look at that and say, I don't know, I think you've had better ideas. But somehow, though, all these ideas come together quite well. The only thing about it, though, is, again, when you start to add the neck pieces, as you've already seen already, it does make the figure a lot more top heavy. So you sort of have to compensate by bending the legs back just a little bit. That give you at least an idea of what the original Rattlor looks like compared along with him. A lot of cool new ideas get incorporated to the new release of Rattlor. Articulation-wise, he's pretty much going to be the exact same, other than just, again, when you start... That's so cool. When you start now adding the neck piece, of course, you get the benefit of now additional posability articulation. So, again, he's got the ball joint here. It goes a little bit further up. Then you've got yourself a ball joint here, and then you got a ball joint at the top where the head attaches to the neck. The mouth does open and close as well, and that, of course, moves back and forth, too. So there's a lot of good posability going here. Standard swivel, though, in his waist, because he does have also this larger belt piece that was also on the original Rattlor, it is going to have a little more problems when it comes to him rotating. You can kind of feel there's some friction kind of working behind the scenes. His arms do rotate, though, all the way around. And you can also hinge them out as well. You're also probably looking at this thinking like, if this is using translucent plastic, wouldn't you be worried at all that the pegs are going to break? Well, they're actually using They are using translucent plastic, but I don't think they're using any more of that kind of plastic that would snap over time. The plastic isn't necessarily gummy, but I feel like it's more the durable kind of plastic where I don't think I would have to worry that clear plastic is going to snap over time. Something that's also really interesting too is that the coloring of his forearms are notably lighter of a blue than the bicep and the shoulder sections. I kind of do wish that they were the same color. A lot of it may really have to do with the fact that they've also gone in there and painted over top of it, sort of making it a darker looking blue on the bottom of it. But again, like his arms do rotate all the way around. You can bring them out again at a T pose. He's got the single hinge only in the elbow that allows the arm to rotate all the way around. Hands again rotate all the way around, back and forth there too. Legs split out, working with a ball joint, of course. You can take the legs and move forward. You can move them back. It's got a little bit of a swivel there at the top of the thigh, single hinge in the knee. For his ankles, though, he does actually have, because I'm sure they're probably going to be using this leg mold for something else, he actually does have what normally would be swapped out for a boot. So there's a swivel cut right here, and then there's a swivel down below here for the actual feet. All in all, though, really nice looking figure. I haven't yet picked up, though, the turtles, and I'm still honestly not sure if I want to. I'm really happy so far, just kind of getting the characters on the side. All the mutants, like Mechaneck, for example. Mechaneck, I really ended up liking the figure quite a lot. And Mechaneck sort of, again, takes the same cues as Rattlor. I kind of like the idea that they took two characters with similar style of gimmicks, even though I don't really have it yet for Mechaneck. I don't usually have this guy displayed on my shelf with the extra neck pieces. Maybe I end up just doing one. Maybe just one. But I do actually like the fact that these two guys are sharing the same wave. I might, though, when it comes to getting Rattlor on display, may not go to the route of displaying this guy with both neck pieces, because I think that might be a little too long, and certainly one of the problems that go along with having a long neck like that, I have an average length neck, but if you have a really long neck, I would imagine that would make you very top heavy. I mean, I can only speak really for Rattlor. The figure has a problem standing when he's got both neck pieces attached to his shoulders. I can't help but find the irony in the fact that Rattlor is one of the hardest figures to stand on my shelf. The original Origins Rattlor, just because the length of his legs and then that longer tail always usually ends up forcing this figure forward, and he always ends up falling. I don't know how many times I've picked up the original Origins Rattlor. Now I'm going to have a similar issue here with the Turtles of Grayskull release. Not only do I have to contend with the tail, but I have to now contend with an extendable neck piece. That's going to make this guy even more top heavy. The one thing, though, at least about the neck, is that you don't have to go with both extensions. If you want to just choose one, I might just end up going with one. Although I like the look of the longer neck, maybe one neck piece is more than enough for me. I do like that there's posability with each of those joints, and there's posability where you can open and close the mouth. You could strip this guy down too if you want to. Stop that, perverts. You can take, though, the back of his armor off completely if you don't like that there. I mean, it does bring all the rest of the pink that's on the figure together. There's also some holes there on the back of his body, even though he doesn't come included with a shield. I'm sure you could easily rip off a shield that came included with another Turtles of Grayskull figure and attach it onto Rattlor here. One of the things that fall off the most is these gauntlet pieces. These little spikes, I'm guessing that's supposed to be part of his body, and not that he's wearing armor, but they fall off way too much, way too often. Every time, though, I move his arm, every time I swivel his hand, I find myself going back, finding the one that's ended up onto the floor and snapping it back in place. At least it's not broken. It's just more frustrating than anything else. Rattlor, though, is probably between him and Mechaneck. I mean, it's pretty hard for me to say that because I haven't even picked up the two turtles yet. But for me, at least, for what I've looked at, these are my two favorite figures from this wave. I love the pink color that they've incorporated to Rattlor. Rattlor was already a neat-looking figure. He always just had issues with his tail. Now I've got issues to contend with both his tail and his neck. What do you guys think of Rattlor? Let me know down below in the comments section. Have you guys had the chance to pick this one up yet? Or is this one also that you guys could want to see adding it to your collection? If you guys did also enjoy this video, you can do it as solid and throw it a like. But if you guys want to stick around for more so, I hope so, you can hit the subscribe and you can turn on the bell. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.